Hi everyone, Danny Bader here, and welcome to another episode of Back to Life, our podcast where I interview people from all walks of life to hear their stories and the insight and wisdom they've gained on this wonderful journey called life. So enjoy the episode and be sure to pay attention to what inspires you to create more happiness and fulfillment in your life, because that's what we're here for, right? Hi everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Back to Life podcast, where we look for people with inspiring stories that we can kind of reflect on our life. And we certainly have two today. You know, wisdom is defined as the rightness of action or decision making that is gained through experience. And I think for the next 30 or 40 minutes, you will have an opportunity to pick up some wisdom from these two guys, because I've known this one 45 years, Joe Mullen, and I've known Pat McCall since 81, so coming up on 40 years. And they've certainly supported me on my journey, and they've certainly had their own journey, both successful entrepreneurs that I think anybody listening in the entrepreneurial world will pick up some good tidbits of wisdom, and also as men and fathers and husbands, you know, just good guys. So I've been blessed to have them, and I thought it would be pretty cool to have them on the podcast here and hear some of their insight. So Joe Mullen, real quick, where are you now? Title, what are you doing? Just tell everybody.
Well, I don't know how much wisdom you're going to get here, but we'll give it a shot. I'm Joe Mullen. I'm principal with Equus Capital Partners. We're a real estate fund manager based out of suburban Philadelphia, Newtown Square, actually. I oversee their multifamily arm, so I'm president and CEO of Madison Apartment Group, and we basically invest in apartments around the country. Been doing this over 30 plus years at this point.
30 years with them. Yeah. Got it. Cool. Pat McCall?
Pat McCall. Yeah, I'm currently Chief Sales Officer with a software company based out of Santa Barbara, California called Clarion Door. We also have an office in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And we specialize in software for the insurance industry. I've been doing this about 25, 30 years. Right. Right now, just a small little company, but we're on the growth right now.
Right. Good vision, right? So anyhow, I met Joe probably, I was thinking 1975.
Yeah,
we were like
grade school.
6th, 7th grade or something, right?
Yeah.
And then Joe went to a different high school than me, and we got back together at Allentown College, now DeSales University. I know many of you listening probably are familiar with that or went there. Joe and I met Pat in 1981 when we landed on campus there, and I think Pat was asking for $2 from each of us so that we could get in on a keg party.
This is where the entrepreneurial spirit began.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I majored in accounting, Joe majored in accounting, Pat majored in
business management by default,
and marketing and things. So the transition, I hear so much when I'm out doing my work. People sometimes will just say, I'm trying to figure something out. I don't know if I want to be at this company anymore. I don't know if I want this role anymore. Trying to figure something out. And a lot of times I hear from their parents who have a 22, 24-year-old, 25-year-old out of college, right? And they go, well, they had one job, they don't like it, they're trying to figure it out.
Sure.
So why don't you guys talk a little bit about your transition, because life is just transitions. When you got out of Allentown College, what was going on for you? What was the vision that you had for yourself? Said, okay, I'm out of college, let me go kick ass. What did that look like? And then how did it kind of truly play out?
Right.
Either one of you.
I'll jump in.
Go ahead.
So it's funny, Danny, and as you said, you and I were accounting majors, and the one thing I think you and I could agree on that we hated accounting. I mean, there's just no question. I did. In hindsight, though, probably the best decision I ever made.
Right.
The business background to have accounting is incredibly strong. So I look back at that, and so I sort of chuckle. You always need someone to sort of guide you out of college as you're coming through, and then when you get out. And my dad was that person. He's the one that suggested I go into accounting. If you want to be in business, that's a great background to have. So I said, fine. So 4 years of that, came out, didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I didn't want to do accounting.
Sure.
So he said, well, you did 4 years. He slow played me.
You
did 4 years. Why don't you just see if you can pass the CPA exam? Take 2 years in public accounting for that. Lo and behold, I did it, got done. At that point, I said, tapped out, I'm done.
Right.
So I always knew, though, real estate was something I had a passion for.
Right. Yeah,
I knew it from an early point in college, probably even in high school. It was a way I could see where you could do something on your own, basically. Now, I have obviously partners, and we've created this great company, but it was something where I knew you could be entrepreneurial. You could do something, you could see it, it was tangible, you could touch it, and I was fascinated by that. And literally, when I passed the exam, I basically gave my notice. you and I got in the best shape of our lives that summer
did.
because we both weren't working at that point.
Yeah, because you had one job and you left.
Right.
I had one job, and I was an accounting major too, and I think my mom talked me into that because one of my sister's friends had graduated from St. Joe's or whatever and just bought a new Honda, so that was the rationale. So, and then I think Taco said it was the top of the list, and I remember it was the first major. So Joe wasn't working. I was tending bar at Houlihan's, so we would work out at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a Monday, right?
That's, that's the best shape we were ever in.
Yeah, it's just what you want to be doing on a Monday.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So it twists and turns along the way, but at the end of the day, I knew I wanted real estate. There was a company called Berwyn Development Services at that point, which fast forward 30 years later is where we are today as our company. We ended up transitioning, but I applied for them, and lo and behold, I had the job, and that's 30 years later. So it's funny how it
entry-level
comes
position
around
too, right?
Well, financial analyst, as a matter of fact, it's it is the lowest, but it's where I probably learned and cut my teeth the greatest in real estate. It was understanding the fundamentals and then going from there. So.
Sure. And you'll probably talk later about some challenges in that. But I know even in the beginning, I remember they had a couple layoffs.
We did. So in 88, I joined there. By 1990, if anyone would remember, it was sort of a crash in the real estate market again, took a really big hit. We went from a company of probably 80 or 90 down to about 14 people. I stuck around because I was probably the cheapest salary at that point. I could run numbers. So at that point, I made it. And
Dan would probably agree with that.
Hey,
right?
one day it was it. I could run numbers, and I was cheap.
Hard worker, too.
That was it.
Yeah. Patrick, your journey out of college now. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was started at the sales. I was undeclared. I think it was longest student ever undeclared at the sales.
You almost graduated undeclared, right?
Somewhere in my junior year, there was an announcement. There was a press conference and announced that I went business management. And to be honest with you, the only reason I went business management at the time, first of all, back in the 80s, there weren't as many majors as there are today, at college. Right. And I remember you guys hated accounting. Right. Had some other friends that hated like political science, right. And I don't think anybody that hung around was.
I think we just hated studying.
Yeah, exactly. But there wasn't anyone that hung around with us that was business management. So I thought, okay, no one's complained about this, so I'll take it. And I went business management. I think the other reason I took that too is because I definitely wasn't into the accounting, the number side of it, and I thought if I took business management, it would give me the option to do a few different things. Whether I wanted to go into sales, whether I truly wanted to go into business management, but I think it gave me some options, coming out of there as well. So decided to go business management and, decided to try sales because I just thought I'd be good in it. I like people. I like the social side of it and so on. And so that's kind of how I started out, again, getting my degree in business management and then just finding my way into the sales world.
Right. But now when you graduated, you had kind of a little challenge going on right there in a good way.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What was going on there?
Yeah, so what was going on there? So I graduated in 85, but my wife of 30-plus years right now, and I had a wonderful daughter in 84. So I kind of had things a little backwards there. Family first, then graduate.
Right.
But it worked out for the best for us and so on, and it was a little bit of a challenge early on. Not as much probably for me as for my wife at the time because she was in college. She decided to go back and take care of our daughter. And anyway, then I graduated in 85. And 85 was an interesting year because I graduated, I got married, I got a job, I got fired. I had it all in 1 year.
So you graduated, you got married, you got a job, you got fired.
I got fired, yeah. Right. First job. So everyone out there listening, kind of searching for things and what they want to do and so on. It's interesting. I had a job that I interviewed for and went through, quite a bit as far as the interview process. Started in the Harrisburg area. I had to fly to Des Moines to, for the next set of interviews. Went through this, quite a few candidates, and I got the job. And then that was in June. And then by the time Thanksgiving came around, I was collecting unemployment. So it was kind of interesting.
Out for the turkey.
Yeah, and it was one of those situations too, to be real honest with you, where I think. I just wasn't. I don't think the company prepared me that I took the position for, and I don't think I was prepared at that time. I don't think I understood everything that I was supposed to do at that time as far as my sales responsibilities. But worked out for the best. Everything worked out fine after that. But so it was an interesting year, 1985.
Yeah. What was Joe? What was your toughest? Let's say in the first 5 to 8 years, professionally. What was one of the biggest things you had to move through?
It probably was. It was if I think back to it now, Danny, in '88, so we graduated '85. I do 2 years, 2.5 years public accounting, and then a shift over. And literally within the first year, all of a sudden, that's when the market collapsed. And I've never been through that before. It was a complete unknown. Now, I can remember sort of going through it.
Now, were you married then? You okay?
Not yet. We were. We got married in '89, and the crash was probably about 1990. So we had just gotten married in November of '89. But none of us had been through anything like I walked out, and I remember all of a sudden we're doing layoffs and everything else, and I thought to myself, is this the norm? Is this what occurs? Is this what occurs in business? And all of a sudden you don't realize. And then watching a company, the greatest thing that probably happened though was the two lead partners in Equus, Dan Delano and Art Pasquarella, and actually Bob Maloney at the time, also as their CFO. There was this whole transition happening, and they saw an opportunity, and they took basically what was really all of a sudden this lousy market, but they knew we had some good real estate there, and how can we kind of turn the tables? And it was great, as because I was a handful of years younger than them, new to the business, to watch this occur, and then be able to get along for the ride for the future. So it was funny. The challenge was, I was shocked, is this normal? And then all of a sudden, the great thing was to watch them, though, turn the table and say, how do I take the challenge and make it an opportunity? And they did that.
So that's
for
the vision
someone that
piece,
was that was it. I was out of school a handful of years, and I look back on that. And sometimes your best education is hard knocks, right? I mean, that's what happens.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I watched that, and instead of sort of getting in the corner and carrying up and how do we do this, they turned the tables and they went after it. And that changed the dynamics of our organization. It changed certainly the dynamics of what I did and what I did with them, and they sort of allowed me to come along really for the ride, which was great.
Yeah. Pat, those tough, the firing the first 6 months, toughest thing, first 5 years?
That was tough, and I learned a lot from that as well too. I will say this: it probably worked at that time the hardest I ever worked in my life, because I was working, Monday through Friday. I was actually going in the office on Saturdays as well, and I'd worked for a large insurance company. Basically, employee benefits is what we were selling. And what I realized after I left is that the territory that I had really wasn't that open to industry and those type of prospects that would take us up on employee benefits. So I worked hard. I learned a lot about it. Probably again just realized that looking at the landscape, it might not have been the best fit just as far as the product and the market that I was selling into. So learned a lot on that. Took a little time off there then, naturally around the holiday season. And I was fortunate enough then in early 1986, February of 86, that I landed a spot as a salesperson for a software company out of California. And that kind of, and the experience I had in that first 6 months, just understanding the market and the product and so on, I basically hit the ground running then when I started in '86, because I just learned a lot from that prior experience. I just learned quite a bit. Hard knocks, as you said, and then when we started in February, everything took off, and really haven't looked back too much. Once that got going,
So the wisdom that we get, right? That soundness of judgment and decision making, and a lot of times kids don't have it because we're younger, right?
Right.
It comes through that experience. And when life is good, everything's good. Nobody's looking like, oh my gosh, what do I need to do? How do I need to think differently?
Right.
So when the shit hits the fan in life, as it does for us, right, personally, business or whatever, what would you say are 2, maybe 3 things that you would offer to people and say, hey, if the shit's hitting the fan for you, you might want to consider this. What do you think?
The first thing, and it's a cliche, Danny, but I think if you have the intangible, or whatever you want to call it, of just a drive and a work ethic, that will make up for a lot of sins. I'm convinced that there's, if I look around the landscape of kids and then people that I work with or don't work with, and people out there, the successful ones are the ones that can get it done. And on paper may not make sense, and someone would say you can't do that, you can't do it. But I've just seen drive and hard work will outbeat anything out there. It'll take all the naysayers and turn. And I think in real estate, it's a very volatile market at all times. Sometimes we're up and sometimes we're down. And you've got to be able to kind of keep an even keel and understand the ups aren't always the ups, and downs won't always be the downs, and you've got to just sort of get it. So I'm gonna, if you can, I've seen some smart people that just fold over, But I've seen some people that you with just street smarts, and they can go and get it done.
Right.
And where everyone else would say you can't, drive and hard work will make up for a lot.
Yeah. I would say the same too. Just
get your butt out of bed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Go get it. People, I'm amazed, Pat. I'm amazed at people. Sometimes I think in many ways, so some people just sort of take the easy route or lay down.
Yeah.
And if you can just work hard alone, that will make up for so much.
I think so as well too. And, it's always easy. I mean, we could say this because I think we've probably all done this before, but it's easy to make excuses why you can't. It's just, the market isn't where it needs to be. My prospects aren't where they need to be. Right. Our product isn't as good as the other one.
It wasn't my fault.
Exactly. And so I think you could
rarely is, right?
Yeah. And I think it's so easy to lean on those excuses. It's the easy thing to do. And I think if you can just kind of, to Joe's point, turn it around, persevere, stay at it, and so on, I think that's really the difference, when it's all said and done. I think there's a lot of people, I shouldn't say a lot of people, but I think it's easy to cop out. And it's the ones that can kind of keep on persevering and have the support mechanism to do it.
Certainly a message we deliver to our children, right?
Absolutely.
3 kids.
Right.
Yeah, there's a great quote that says there on the road to success there is lined with many tempting parking spots.
That's right.
Right? So you just pull in and check out. And,
that's right.
Oh, sure.
Put it in park.
Into victim mode, right?
Oh, it's easy to do. It's real easy to do.
It is. Yeah.
So on the academic scale, right, so we've all seen people. What are you laughing at?
You're not going to get our transcripts out, are you, Danny?
I happen to have the transcripts right here.
Yeah.
No, you guys were 4-0, right?
Together.
2-0.
Together, combined 4-0.
Yeah. We really don't want to get those transcripts out. You people in the audience that haven't seen the letter C and the letter D, get those transcripts out. You get a good look at those. Yeah.
But so here's a couple of things to consider. There is a belief, right, that we work hard, right? And you guys certainly worked hard in school, and sometimes grades come to people easier than others. We know that. But there is that belief sometimes that it's all about the grades and the tests, and kids, they put so much pressure on themselves, And you talk to your kids in college, and I'm talking to Lizzie now going in,
right?
At Penn, just to say, hey, you're going to work hard, but sometimes that outcome is not going to be what you wanted or what you thought you were going to get. So what are your thoughts around that notion of, it's the grades, because grades measure intelligence, which is a factor in success. And
it's I'll take the first shot at this one, Joe. And I'll tell you what. So I really I'll go back just to high school.
Right.
I took my college boards, I remember, and in high school, I don't think I applied myself as well as I could have.
Right.
But I had a good time. I knew everyone in the school. Had a great set of friends and so on. I remember when I was
junior. You talking about high school or college?
High school first.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of carried over to college. But I'll never forget, my guidance counselor called me in.
Right.
And it was senior year. And I took the college boards, and I had some of those Iowa tests, things like that we all had in high school. He looked at what I was getting in school and how I graded on some of those standardized tests. And I remember him saying, if I was looking at this, if I didn't know you, Pat, all it would tell me is LAZY, lazy.
Really?
Because here's your potential, and here's what you're doing, right? So I said, okay, I understood, and I respected him, and he was a teacher there, and told me that, and so on. And then, when I kind of went into the sales, as much as I remember that conversation, I'm not sure it changed the way that I as far as applied myself, as I could have done better. I mean, that's the bottom line as well.
Yeah.
But one thing I'll share with you. So, and when we talk about our GPAs, we're not lying on that either. I mean, that's the truth. And we always the motto was C's get degrees, right? Everybody out there. I mean, that's what we're all striving
C's
for.
Get degrees,
right? And but I'll never forget. So you talk
about a lot of parents out there. Exactly. My kid's not listening to this podcast.
Yeah, I know.
Well, they should.
So anyway, but I will tell you this. So as we were going through that, and so you asked, where grades come in. So on, I'll never forget. And my wife would tell you this in a second. When years after we had graduated and we were married and we went back to visit my parents, my wife said to my mom at the time, she said, what the hell were you thinking of? And my mom just looked at her and she goes, this guy was in college and his grades compared to what he's done since he's gotten out, he's definitely had more potential than when he was in there.
Sure, yeah.
And my mom said, so when you go back, what do you think grade was? My mom said, I looked at that and I never got caught up in the grades because all these guys that he would bring home, which include Joe Mullen, Danny Bader, and about a dozen other guys I could mention. She said she thought that was the greatest thing that I got out of college.
Right.
You know, because she said he's got these great friends, and you know, this was just years ago saying this, and they're still all friends.
Oh,
you know, and so the grades, yes, they're important to some extent, but it's probably that whole college experience of 4 years of being independent, of growing up a little on your own, of forming a good, you know, friendship. And then, you know, for me, I say this, I don't say this jokingly. I mean, I worked on my social skills. I really, and now when I go out in sales, it's if someone has this personality that's a little more structured, I can deal with that person.
Yeah.
If this guy's a little more loosey-goosey, I've been with that person as well too. So it really helped me. But anyway, I think that's how it goes. I don't want to tell anyone not to shoot for A's and so on. But I think to your point too, don't get caught up in. There's nothing wrong with a B. I mean, if I came home with a B, man, there was a parade in my town. You know, so like, but don't get too caught up in the grades. I would think also, you know, think about the entire experience.
Exactly. Strive for that, right? You want to produce good outcomes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. What do you think about that?
No, I think, Pat, I think your mom was dead on, and I think you're right, Pat. It was those years of developing, those 4 years when we were in college, all of us, that we got our personalities really came out. I often said that, and I've told you many times, and you were a huge influence on me. And in college, you know, I watched you walk into a room and command it and do all these things. And I was sort of, and you know, take things from Pat, you know, so you take things from people that you're around, and I think that allowed us during the 4 years to do that. You know, I have 3 kids, and Kelly and I, my wife, we want good grades, but as long as they're working hard, and we know that, and sometimes they'll snake us a little and say they are, and they're not. But that we did the same thing.
You kids will do that out there, don't you?
But you know, it's more, to Pat's point, it's more of being well balanced. It's being able to hold a conversation. It's being able to walk into a room and talk to someone.
Look an adult in the eye. Right?
Exactly. You still have to have.
Don't say like 47 times in a sentence. Yeah.
But you still have to have the goods behind it. You still have to. You still have to bring the goods. You can't just do it on personality. You have to know what you're talking about. Work hard, learn, and all that. But if that came with a C, and you still were out, and you were engaged, and you were doing other things, and you were this and that, and you were still trying over here and working, but it ended up, so be it. You know, so be it.
Yeah. I think the other thing, you know, just want to think about that too. Again, this is just my experience with some grades and classes too. A lot of times, I'll be real honest, as we were taking, you know, we were a liberal arts college, so naturally their goal was to keep us as well-rounded as possible and so on. But there were times when I was taking some of those classes thinking, where does this fit in once I get out of here? You know, and I think so part of that was, again, nothing from those instructors or those topics or anything, but I just think then I was back to C's get degrees, you know, because I couldn't find myself, you know, some of the other classes became a little more interested, but there are some classes that you look at and say, you know, when I get out of here, where's this philosophy class taking me, you know? So.
Yeah. Now, see, I like the philosophy classes, though. Truth be told.
I know.
But I mean, that was it. I mean, looking back, that was.
But here's the great. I mean, you know, in the Jackrabbit principles, they show up. I didn't invent them, but to know thyself, I didn't practice that in college, right? Because I knew I didn't want to be an accountant. You remember Joe and I would study together. We were roommates. Senior year of tax, I got a 56. Mr. Davis wrote "Surfs Up" next to it, and I'm like, right on, because I don't. But they had the theater, they had the communications. So I didn't really pay attention. So that's what I would tell people too. You know, there's a great book called Top 5 Regrets of the Dying, and the first one, it's a wonderful book written by this lady got in palliative care. The first regret is that I regret that I didn't have the courage to live my life versus what other people wanted us.
There you go.
How they wanted to live it, right? So there's a lot of people that you see that are going to choose a profession based on influence from other people that you love. But what we did learn in college, and Pat, you both touched on it, is what you don't learn in the classroom when you do start to learn more about yourselves and how people deal and what are their communication styles. That's, for me, as I held up the mirror, I thought, well, you know what? I majored in accounting because I wanted to please my mom and everybody.
Sure.
You know, don't switch. You're going to be an actor or whatever. They're going to be an accountant, right?
Right.
So now you understand you've got to be a little bit more true to yourself, even if it might piss people off a little bit. You're not being mean or evil. You're just saying, hey, this is my journey. I want you on it, but this is kind of where we're headed.
That's a good point too. And I know we're going to probably talk about this as we get a little further into this, but you know, then that brings up is, you know, one of the things that always stuck with me, to your point, Danny, is anyone listening out there, especially if you're in college right now or you just finished up college, just remember, you know, whatever you're going to do, you better like it because you're going to do it for 40 years. Yeah, and that sounds kind of crazy. A minimum of 40 years.
Yeah.
And life expectancy for those watching is probably going up even more, and they could be working longer. But to your point, Danny, don't go into accounting if you don't think you can do it for 45 years or 50 years.
So what do you like about what you do? And you're really, both these guys are very, very good at what they do.
I just like the people aspect of it. The kind of, it's, as I said to you, it's kind of that social side of it as well. It's meeting different people. It's working with different people. It's the challenge of sales as well.
So your value then is the relationships, building the relationship.
Absolutely.
And the business sales byproduct.
Just comes, exactly.
Yeah, so insurance software is insurance software, but you want to...
Yeah, exactly. No,
and you do it from your heart, too, because I know a lot of your customers are your friends. I mean,
exactly. Yeah, you've got some great relationships and be able to leverage those and so on. It works out well.
Yeah, cool. What about you? What do you like best about what you do?
I think it's probably, Danny, every day is different. Every day is a challenge. It's, we wake up in the morning and we're an investment company, so we're always buying properties, we're always running properties, and then we're always selling properties. No day's ever the same. Some days are more challenging than others, but I think that's what gets you up in the morning.
And you've always got your people that want their return, right?
They want their return. So and we have a real mantra in our shop that, if we said we're going to do it, we're going to do it.
Right.
So if we said we're going to provide this and get X returns and do that, we're going to do our mightiest to make sure that we hit upon all those things. So every day is a different day, and that's what I love. I love getting up in the morning and knowing there isn't a blueprint in front of me. Now, I do have a structure where I know what the day starts to look like, but at the same time, I know within all that, there's going to be all different ways you're being pulled along.
Yeah. Well, I think any entrepreneur, and you guys certainly are, they love that, right?
It's
they don't want that when they go into a... Yeah, I got to have the ability to work my ass off and create something that I want to create for myself.
Absolutely,
right? Because I mean, you guys have grown. How many people in the company now?
It ebbs and flows, but I mean, within our corporate side, we have about 150 just in Newtown Square. But then we have multiple people out our properties running the properties, and hundreds of people. We have an office in California, one in
Operations
Chicago,
support,
and one in So it's. We're a national footprint with a lot of people, and that lends itself also is that we want to do the right things for them and allow them to grow. They provide for their families.
What do you guys? You have any? Just use that term, fear. You got any fears in life? You scared of anything?
I told you before we came on the air. Aside from mayonnaise,
on the air. This is Danny Bader signing off.
You guys know that I don't like mayonnaise.
You're scared of mayonnaise.
Yeah. No, I think from a fear.
Chuck Z. I think Chuck Z's scared of mayonnaise too.
Yeah, exactly. I think
we're all scared of Nels.
I think from a fear standpoint, it naturally changes as you get older. Because I could hit the rewind button and tell you, 30 years ago it was about. House and the kids and getting the kids to college and making sure all that was taken care of and so on. As we get older, fortunately a lot of that has happened for Joe and I and for you as well. So that's a good thing. So just I think fear. What I'm afraid of right now, not a lot. I don't want to sound cocky about it or anything like that. No. But I think subconsciously, always there's always that fear of failure. And I think that keeps again subconsciously just keeps me going. It's like you don't want. You don't want, as Joe pointed out, we're not only in business right now, trying to make a better life for our families and so on, but then also for our employees. And you want to make sure. I mean, I take a lot of pride in the fact that we're able to employ 30 people and pay them good and take care of them and benefits and everything like that and so on. So I think behind the scenes that's one of the things.
They create a really cool culture too.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been to your offices in Santa Barbara, your offices, man, and feel. And then I'm in a lot of corporate. Big $1 billion, and you just go in there and it's like, I mean, I sense that your people are happy, they're enjoying every day.
Yeah. No, of course not.
Right,
yeah. But that's cool that you guys can lead and influence and give somebody a place to work, because statistics, I mean, there's like 70% of the people that really don't want to be where they are.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
25% totally disengaged. 50 you're like, well, I'm going, it's a job, I got benefits.
Yeah.
And then those people 25 that say, hey man, it's work, it's not perfect, but I'm using my talents and I'm growing.
Yeah, take that for granted, because last week we were at church and the homily, I can't remember the rest of it, but I'll tell you what it started like, was that the priest started by saying 80% of those that are employed today just either hate their job, don't like their job, but the bottom line is they're not happy. And I sit there, again, just because I enjoy what I'm doing, and I was like, I just can't even believe that, but you're right, there, 4 to 5 people
Yeah.
Just don't like what they're doing.
Well, the fifth regret of the dying, I wish I'd allowed myself to be happier.
Yeah.
Live my life, number one. Number five, I just wish I'd allowed myself to be happier. And that's just a choice in the moment, right? You know, we just can create that, you know?
Yeah. And that's what I said to you. I mean, you know, again, you're going to be doing this. Whatever you choose to do with your life, you're going to do it for 40, 45 years. You better like it. And, you know, probably the best thing to do is, you know, don't get caught up right away. This is easy to say. Don't get caught up right away in the money, because you've got to try to figure out what you like doing. The money will come. If you really like what you do and you're passionate about what you do, the money will take care of itself.
Yeah, always does.
Yeah, so.
Right.
Good point.
You know, Danny, it's as you're just both saying that, it's funny. And how do you get people, like, it's real easy as we lay that out for you to, you know, the five. And I think when you say it, it's like, of course.
Oh, yeah, I use that a lot now.
But how do you get people to step back during their day and sort of focus on those? You know what I mean? Like, so we all get crazy and you're in the moment.
Yeah.
And just a simple one of being happy. Like, how do you get, you know, people have a lot of things and then somehow you're still caught up in all this and you're not allowing yourself. How do you get people to...
Well, there's a great statement that Joe's just taken over his interview now.
Sorry.
That's right.
There's a great statement I learned at Hudson Institute: awareness precedes change, right? So if you've got to identify something that somebody wants to change, you've got to put them into some type of awareness. So then that's going to be journaling every day. It's going to, they have a good vision for the next 6 months of what they want to create. This relationship sucks right now and I want it to be better. Whatever it is, right? And then you really have to, you know, you got to work your butt off to catch yourself, because that habit loop is so powerful, right? There's a cue, there's a feeling, there's an action, and it's all. So you really have, the cue's never going to change, right? So if I want a relationship better, and you know somebody's throwing a zinger at me, that zinger's still going to come. That's the cue. Now the pause kicks in and says, what do I really want to produce right here? How can I think about this person differently? So it's just a matter of getting somebody that's really committed to growing, right? I don't even say change. I like to use the word growth. And then just staying really, really conscious of it, you know. And I know that process. I'm not perfect at it. I still work it. You know, in my life, you guys know that for sure. I mean, two of my best friends. So Pat used the word fear, right, and risk as well. So what's your take on risk when that shows up? Because that too will push people back from working hard, going after it, getting through the tough times. I mean, fear and risk are like twin brothers. I think, man.
No doubt. I always said sometimes it's probably good that you know, not that you go blindly at stuff, but I think about things, but at the same time I don't really think long and hard about it. Like I'd rather go do something, make a decision. So a lot of times, even though it may be risky or something we're looking at may have risk to it, we'll analyze it, we'll go through it, but at some point you've got to take that risk. I mean, so you try to minimize it, you try to do everything you can to make sure you know the downside. You know what, if this happened, this happened, this happened. But if you're going to be successful somewhere in your life, you're going to have to take a risk.
That's right.
And you'll be scared when you take it.
And you will be absolutely scared, because you'll have nights where you'll wake up at 3 a.m, and I've had plenty of them.
Yes, you have.
Where you wake up and you go, geez, was that, you know, you
what's going on here?
But if you're going to be successful, at some point you're going to have to take that step off the ledge and trust that you've done everything.
It's funny, man. I have conversations with people in business, entrepreneurial or not, and certainly, but it's like they have a whole different belief around fear and risk, where some people will run the hell away from it as fast as right? And it's conditioned, right?
Absolutely.
But then the entrepreneurs are like, fear and risk shows up. It's not pleasant.
Yeah.
I got to do a little homework. But when fear and risk show up, I know we're moving to some cool place here. We got a good opportunity.
That's when I said earlier with the transition of our company, I look at, you know, Dan, Art, and Bob initially when they took this sort of 1990 downside and they turned the table. They took that fear and they turned it. They turned it, and that's, to your point, exactly. If you allow that and you understand that, then there's opportunity.
Sure. Yeah, I like it. Any personal challenges, big personal challenges you had? I mean, you guys know my biggest was after that accident. You two boys were right there for me. Any personal challenges in life that you
I think just, you know, early starting out after college, as I kind of alluded to some of that as well too, because you know, just having kids early and just trying to, you know, do the house and do everything and so on. That early on, I mean, that was the biggest challenge, just having a family early and then just trying to do everything to provide for it as well too.
Yeah.
So, but it's a great motivator as well.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it really is. That's the other thing too. So
yeah, especially we're people, right?
Yeah,
we fail in outcomes, but when we fail people, man, that can really, especially the three of us with the way
Yeah.
we were raised,
Right,
our parents
absolutely.
and our integrity.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So good motivator. These guys know the story, so I'll just real quick. But I always told Danny and Joe and the rest of the friends when I first got out of college. So we were fortunate enough that my in-laws had an apartment, allowed us to kind of live with them,
Yes.
which was great.
Yes. We visited.
Exactly. And when I got out of college and got the job with the company in California, I didn't have an office to go. So basically what I needed was besides having an apartment, was also a home office as well. So fortunately, that was all in one. We didn't realize it would be at the time, but I always told the story where I could lay in bed and I could literally answer my work phone, and it was an efficiency. If I wanted to, I could, without getting out of bed, probably flip an egg as well and check on my daughter as well. So there's a lot of motivation just in that, as you can tell.
Challenge there, right?
But no, it's like it normally brings out the best in you when you, as Joe said, it's fear, it's risk, and I had a lot of that going on the first 12 months out of college.
They say we're always going to move towards pleasure or away from pain.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that pain and that failure will keep us rolling, man, because it's not what we wanted. Any personal challenges for you? I mean, we've all had a pretty charmed life.
We have. I mean, it's funny, and as well, you don't want to be cocky about it, but we have. I think it's interesting at 56 now. Clearly, those things start to change, and you have a family, and you have kids, and now your kids are older. Cassie will be 27, my oldest, and PJ's 25. Caroline will be 22, and you worry about them, and you worry about their path, and you worry about their happiness. So it's funny, you're caught up in early on about working and providing and doing all these things, growing, getting it, growing company, and then all of a sudden, and you're nurturing along the way with your kids, but now all of a sudden, Lizzie, your last one going to college, it's a transition, and I think mentally you shift now, and a lot of, at least my worry, is more about them and for them and what they're, not that I never worried about them prior, it's just a different type of worry now.
That's right.
They're adults, they're setting their path now, and they have their...
Because we really can't control.
No,
Mom
that's
and
it, that's
control,
right.
Keep them safe.
That's a perfect
And now
way.
you're just hoping they all make the right decisions and so on, everything works out as well
wisdom,
too.
right?
So absolutely.
Yeah. So what's next as you guys step into and you race towards 60? Of course, I'm not racing there with you. I'm stopping.
That's
any kind of vision for where you're headed with your companies?
I would just like to, at least where I sit right now, I think about this all the time. I remember talking to Joe about this last year. It's like, geez, we're getting close to 60. And as everybody knows, when you kind of get late 50s, 60, you get looked at a little differently as far as these guys on their way out, what's going on. So, no, when I look at that, I would just like to definitely do what I'm doing, at least for the foreseeable future. I don't have any plans of pumping the brakes right now or anything like that. And I also think that at some point, probably will have to make a change at some point, somewhere down the line, whenever it makes sense that, hey, you can't be on the road all the time and you can't be doing all the travel and everything that's related to my job, sales. But I still think even at that point, I know, and I've had some good experiences with some people I know that naturally are older than me. I know when that time comes, I will definitely find something to keep me active at that point as well, too.
Right.
Because I'm just not going to hit the brakes and say, hey, this is it, and I'm going to golf and try to do this. And that never seems to work out. And I think just trying to be active, trying to be busy, whatever that might be, as we get into our 60s and even into our 70s, that's what I'm thinking as far as plans go.
You guys give back so much, too. You're involved with so many good causes of being support to people, right?
Sure.
Yeah. What about you? What do you got?
It's funny, Dan. To your point, I think sometimes how you feel internally, I feel I got so much left in my tank, and I love what I do every day. I really do. I love getting out of bed. I love doing it.
Right?
And let's go. I have fun. Now, I know the perception on the other side, that person looking at this thinning gray hair with, going,
when are you
moving out of the way?
Because I want your job.
Exactly. Yeah. But, and there's a line. You've got to be, you can't just be that guy and then kind of keep everyone, you got to bring people along. You got to do that. But to Pat's point, I feel like I have so much left to give. I have so much, and I think we can continue to do a lot of great things, not just within, our company, but I think even, just as you said, being, active on different boards and everything else.
Sure.
It's hard. I can't ever imagine going what we've done to this point of working and moving and going
And
to just stopping.
Yeah, exactly.
It'd be worse. And I think
I couldn't imagine. I haven't watched your journey, been part of it.
Yeah, it would be fun would not be that. Now, fun is doing a lot of different things along the way, being involved over here and doing this.
Oh, yeah, we got nice golf tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Yeah, so those are the fun things. You can enjoy
us,
those, and then, back in on Tuesday and going at it.
Right,
So
yeah. Mm-hmm. And fortunately for me, I don't get painted with that gray hairbrush that you guys do. So when they look across at me...
Yeah, but in college you had some hair, brother.
Everybody say, this guy's getting gray. No, it's not happening to me, so that's good.
Oh, man. All right, a couple things as we kind of head towards wrap-up now. On life's journey, transitions, challenges, where do you guys get support? Where do you seek support for yourselves?
Yeah, I think it comes from, well, first of all, family, and then your friends. Mm-hmm. I mean, if I had to tell anyone that's out there now, whether you're in high school or your college, or even if you just got out and so on, I talked about it a little earlier, but I can't tell you how important it is to have good friends, not only when you're in college, but to be able to have those friends when you leave as well too. Yeah. Just to be able to, be there, for support. Something comes up, I call you, I call Joe. I mean, there's other guys that are in our posse as well too that I call and just say, hey, here's what's going on, that type of thing as well too. And I say that because being around other people and other professionals, there's a good amount that I know that don't have that network, that don't have that support mechanism. Yeah. So again, I'll go back to what my mother said. I mean, it's just the biggest thing about college I look at is like, got a diploma, everything like that. But then I look at all the friends I meet, and I could still count on today. And it's it's
she had some wisdom.
Exactly. Yeah. Really be really fortunate though. Yeah. I consider it, part of that. So
I think that's key.
Yeah.
Like family, friends, same thing.
Oh, I'd echo absolutely same thing. You look back and through challenges and everything else, you guys, the rest of our friends, family. You're not only my mom and dad, Kelly's mom and dad, but Kelly and the kids. I mean, their support. So it's family, it's friends, it's everyone. It's not one or the other. It's at different combinations at different points.
Yeah, it is really good. It is really good. So you mentor people probably, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, like you said, you're developing, you're bringing some people along or whatever. As we kind of wrap up right now, there will be many people watching this that will never have the opportunity to be mentored by you, right? Maybe at a tough time in their life. So if we kind of just make it generic, some of the struggles in life, I mean, as we wrap up, what 2 or 3 things do you both believe to be vital as we move through this wonderful journey of life and the challenges? What would you offer to them?
Well, I would tell you, I mentioned it being redundant here, but
that's all right.
The friends, the support mechanism, I think that's critical as you go through life to have that as well too. The other thing, that I would say, and again, I don't want to sound like an old timer here as well too, but I sometimes look at the landscape out there of hiring, employees that just come out of college, and I would tell you the other thing is that I would unplug a little from the social media side of it as well, because I think if I look at the Facebooks and the Twitters and the Instagram, I think they all have a purpose and so on. But I think, and again, I don't want to paint everybody with this brush, but as I look, I think younger people have relied on that too much as their way of communicating. Yeah. And as opposed to, hey, pick up the phone and talk to Joe and tell him what some things going on, as opposed to
or go meet
text
with
him,
right?
Exactly, or go meet with him face to face and so on. And I think that, again, that I just kind of would say that, hey, you don't have to get totally off it, but unplug from it a little. And then the other thing too, I mean, that just relates to that is, it's great to be able to text and to be able to do all that and to communicate and so on. But then the other thing is too, when you do get out of college and you've been out of college, and as you make your way, kind of through the corporate world, those people skills really become important.
Yeah, that's it, right?
And when you're used to typing as opposed to talking, when you're used to, hitting somebody on Instagram as opposed to seeing them face to face, I think that that really could be a negative for just your professional development. So anytime you get a chance to pick up the phone, or anytime you get a chance to meet with someone in person, do it. Put the phone down. You don't need to text them. You don't need to get on Instagram. You don't need to do your Twitter and all. Go do it the old-fashioned way. Right. I think it helps.
I like that.
Yeah.
Life tough. What are two pieces of wisdom?
It's probably too cliche, but I firmly believe it. It's perseverance and hard work, and those two things will make up for 90% of all the other things you don't have. I'm just convinced of that. You can outwork anyone. You can outwork anyone out there, and I'm amazed that I've said it earlier that there aren't more people doing it, because it's the easiest thing you can do is work hard and get out there and get it done and persevere. Everything's not going to right out. When I meet with and now because of the age where our kids are, I meet a lot of kids just coming out of college, and my advice early on is, listen, you're going to hate your first job. That's a given. No one's getting a title right away. No one's getting this. You're not. Persevere. Take what you can from that. Don't start for 2 weeks and stay with it. Try to take what you can from it. Persevere. That's going to help you long run. That perseverance, and take from it and take some positive, and just hard work and do the right things. Do the right things. If you can look in the mirror every day, and if there's a questionable act that comes up, look in the mirror and say, if I said this to someone, would this sound okay? And if it doesn't, don't do it. So do the right things, work hard, persevere, and I'll tell you, a lot of good things will happen.
How important is, with Jackrabbit and everything, like vision for you guys, where you're in the moment, you're grinding, you're working hard, but how do you dance to the future to kind of imagine what needs to be real, family, business? I mean, is that something that you do?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, just as far as, like you said, having vision and just seeing where things are going and try to take a step back. I mean, one of the things, and you'd mentioned, you came out to our company and we had our customer conference and you were the keynote speaker. And, one of those principles that you talk about here is just being still and taking some time just to kind of shut everything else off and just don't do anything else. Just give yourself a chance to think and so on. And I try to do that whether I'm just in the car and just turn everything down, whether I'm out for a walk and so on. But I think that's really important, just allow you to kind of, from that standpoint. And then, vision-wise, I mean, I always look at vision because I think I'm a visual person. This, Danny, I told you that, one of the things, just because I'm on the sales side, I always have like a hit list of prospects that are in the funnel.
Yeah, I've got some of that.
Hopefully it could be customers. And I just do something simple like just print that list every week. And I just have it hanging on my desk and, just kind of look at that. Just look at that. And I think the ability to see that every day and see that prospect that you feel can become a customer if everything goes the right way, I think that works out really well for me. Just to be looking at that every day and imagining, again, just seeing it through from prospect all the way through to customer. And for me, anyway, as I look at that every day, I just say, that's going to be a customer. That's going to be a customer. 8 out of 10 times, 9 out of 10 times, it usually happens if you think that way. So, so I think that's important for me when you talk about the vision and everything like that. I always have that visual of the prospects that I'm working on, hoping that they'll make their way through to be customers.
Right. Hold useful thoughts, right? Hold useful thoughts of what you want.
Exactly.
That's what we say. So you, in business doing deals and all, you're probably...
It's hard, though, Dan. I will say probably one of my weaknesses is probably meaning step back and make sure you're heading in that same direction you want to be in. I think what happens is you get up, you get going, and you're doing things, and things happen. And to Pat's point, you really do have to take a step back and make sure what it is you're doing long term is the right thing. I would think for most people it's a challenge for me. I mean, it's hard for me to. I know what I want.
Right.
I know what it is. I know what it is. But sometimes you have that
vision.
Exactly.
A lot of times we're
you're grinding. So have I relayed that vision? Do I have the right things in place to get to that vision?
Does your team know it?
Do they know it?
Family,
so
team,
I think anyone, if you're moving and going the way we are, I would almost say that's probably the biggest challenge, at least I have, is taking and making sure I know what what's out there.
Stop doing for a minute.
Exactly.
And just prepare to do. Right?
And I think for me though, that's my biggest challenge and weakness by far.
Yeah. Well, I remember, I was skiing out in Aspen with Tony DeLucia the one time, and the way that I try to describe that for people is because you got to continue to do. We were taking a mogul lesson. And the guy who was teaching us said, when you're in the turn right now, you got to be very focused on the turn. Your hands are down. Your skis on edge. And he said, but you're not looking at the turn you're in anymore. You're looking two down. So it's just a good way to describe. I'm here today. I'm working, but I'm always kind of got an eye on something else.
Right.
Yeah, that sounds good.
It's important.
Cool. Well, I've certainly enjoyed chatting with you guys. I think everybody out there will get some benefit out of it. Anything else before we part? Any funny stories, Pat? Any jokes? Anything you got?
I got not for here. Not for here. No. I think this has been good. It's good talking this through and so on, and hopefully, maybe one or two tidbits that we've thrown out there. Your audience will get a chance to take away from it and say, hey, that's something I want to put in play and put into practice and so on. But again, as Joe pointed out, there's no special recipe here. It's just work hard, it's persevere, it's do the right things, and just keep on keeping on. Stay away from the excuses.
Good support network, right?
Yep.
Keep your
Good
focus.
Support network. Yeah. No.
What's been the greatest thing for you on this journey of life for 56 years?
Besides right here in between you
Yeah,
two,
brother.
You start with your family and friends, and that has been the greatest. A lot has come from being able to do what I've done, and financially, work-wise, everything with family and friends, and to enjoy a really good life. But I look back and in '88 when I came over to Berwyn Development, and those guys then turned the tables and allowed me to go along for that ride. And 30 years later, still
Partners,
there,
friends.
dear friends,
Doing great work.
along with Steve Spader, the five. We're dear friends. We work hard. And we've been together a long time. So not too many people in their lives, I think, can walk away with that and say that. And I look back now, and I certainly feel having a 30-year run with these guys and doing what we've done, and then have you guys and my family, I'm blessed. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, we all are, yeah. Best thing for you, this journey called life? Same thing?
Yeah, same thing. I'm working right now with a great group of guys right now in this venture that we're in right now. We've got some great employees and so on. I was fortunate. I had a similar experience, with another software firm that we had about a good 10-year run as well, too. Early stage startup and so on. So, the whole challenge of that, and then fortunately being successful doing it as well, too, and just the entire journey, between employees and people I work with, and then family and so on. So yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
It is all good. So I hope you enjoyed that episode. And as you know, on the podcast Back to Life, we talk with people with stories, because life is just transition, right? So for the younger people that might be listening right now, you got a lot of transitions coming down the pike. For middle-aged, even maybe for some older ones, life is just transitions, right? And sometimes they're not an easy place to get through. But I think you picked up some wisdom from Pat and Joe, who have navigated quite a few transitions very, very well. Get up, work hard, surround yourself with good people, persevere through it, make sure that you seek support, and slow down a little bit and kind of look down the road to see where you're headed. And if you do that, I think everything's going to work out and life will be beautiful. So take care, peace. You guys know that I love you, Pat. I love you.
I know you do, Dan.
I
love you.
All right, let's do it.
Thanks, everyone.
Say goodbye to everybody. Peace out.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Back to Life. Our conversation sure got me thinking about some things that I need to pay attention to in my life, and I trust the same occurred for you as well. So until next time, each day when you come back to life, be sure to always be inspired.